In this week's video, I'm going to show you what meals I made in a week and what I've been eating. I am actually trying to follow the Trim Healthy Mama plan just because here being postpartum, I am having the hardest time losing weight. I recently got a hair mineral test done with my sister because she's a nutritional therapy practitioner, and my thyroid is tanked, my adrenals are tanked. I shouldn't be doing like keto and fasting, and so I've been really trying to focus on Trim Healthy Mama because they go back and forth between having energy meals that are higher carb and low fat but still moderate protein, and then also flip-flopping between like keto meals, which would be more high fat, moderate protein but low carbs. So some of these meals that you're seeing in this video are going to be carbs and some of them are going to be more keto. So for this first meal, I'm just making a very easy sausage and cabbage kind of like saute skillet one pot meal. We really like cabbage, and if you cook this in lots of butter, which is what I'm doing, it tastes so flavorful. So I just chopped up some cabbage, and then it was, I think I got turkey kielbasa, it might have been, and I am just sauteing this over butter and some spices like salt, garlic powder. I actually have some of this like mushroom umami seasoning from Trader Joe's, which is so good. I'm also going to add an onion for just some extra flavor, and all of this is just going to cook with the lid on until the cabbage would be tender, like depending upon however you want it. I am adding a little bit of chicken broth so it just has some liquid to cook in. I'm not sure how long I cooked it for. I just tested it by what the cabbage looked like, and then I added a sprinkle of nutritional yeast, and this was so good. It was so tasty and not bland like you would think with cabbage, but you know, I love cabbage. I love sauerkraut. I love all that stuff. So maybe this is just a me meal. I'm not sure, but I thought it was delicious. All right, it is the next day. As you can see, a lot of times I'm cooking with Alice on my back. It's just, you know, I'm able to get stuff done. I just throw her on my back and I do my thing. So today we're actually having a meal that is going to be a little bit more carb heavy. This one was so incredibly good and really easy to make. I think it was also still a one pot meal. So I'm cutting up some green pepper, and I actually have some ground beef that's cooking in my pot on the stove. I have like a freezer full of meat because I buy a quarter cow for my brother because he has like grass-fed meat that he raises. So I just got the beef out of my freezer, and that's, I don't even know like what percentage it technically is. But I'm also gonna chop up some celery and of course some onion. But I'm pulling out of the cabinet some canned pinto beans and some corn. I ended up only using 1 can of pintos and 1 can of corn, I think. And then I also had some rotel, so like the diced tomatoes with chili. So it looks like I used 2 cans of the rotel, but just 1 can of beans and 1 can of corn. And then I have this 90-second brown rice quinoa mixture. These I get at Aldi, and they're just so helpful because I also don't have to worry about us like overeating carbs if I just have that one pouch, and you can easily just heat it up in the microwave for 90 seconds. So I did add that in here instead of just making brown rice. And then I added some spices like chili powder, cumin, salt, pepper. I'm getting all these recipes out of the like Trim Healthy Mama cookbook, and so technically I can't share the exact recipes with you guys, but you can always find these like within the cookbook. If you have a library, that's where I got my books. I'm just borrowing them from the library. While it was cooking, I cleaned up the kitchen because I love cleaning while I'm like waiting for things to cook, and then I just put it in a bowl and I topped it with some non-fat Greek yogurt, and it was so delicious. Definitely would make this again. Okay, the next day's meal, I'm making a chuck roast. Again, this is from my freezer, from the quarter cow that I got from my brother. and I'm going to saute it so that way I can get a nice good crust and color in my Instapot, and then I'm going to slow cook it after that. So I turn my Instapot onto the saute mode, and I think I added some lard and then just salt and pepper, and I'm just like searing it to get that color because it just makes it taste, you know, a little bit more depth of flavor. And then I'm going to toss in veggies. So I have peppers, I think I have celery, and radishes are like the potato substitute because this is one of the lower carb meals. And I know radishes sound like they would be gross in this, but you have to try them. When I was keto years ago, we actually really loved like roasting radishes in the oven, cooking with radishes. They actually turn so good, and then they're not spicy. So definitely try this out if you haven't. I'm making the little like marinade thing that's supposed to go with it, and so it was like chicken broth, tomato paste, Worcestershire, and like some spices, probably like, I forget exactly, maybe smoked paprika, salt, garlic powder, things like that. And then I just shook it up and dumped it in, and I had this slow cook all day. Like I think I was making this during Alice's first nap, so probably around like 11 o'clock in the morning. And then I was able to just slow cook it all day, and then we ate it for dinner. Once it was done, I pulled the meat out so that way I could cut it up and shred it up, and I just added it back to the pot. Alice loved this chuck roast so much. She ate a ton of it, and I did thicken it with a little bit of they call it like glucki or something. It's like glucosamine, or I don't know what it's called, but I actually don't really prefer it. It's like a Trim Healthy Mama thing, and I think I'm just gonna go back to using like arrowroot powder. You could use like cornstarch or something if you don't care that much about the carbs, but I think I just added too much, so it thickened a little bit too much. But anyway, let's get into the next meal. So this is another day. I think I had clogging this night, so I was like preparing this in advance. This is going to be a chicken parmesan. It's super easy, very, very good. So I was using the baking blend from Trim Healthy Mama, but I think that there's recipes on Pinterest on how to make your own. I think it's like oat fiber and almond meal and flax meal or something like that, but I just have the blend. And I melted butter, so you dip the chicken tenders in the butter and then into the baking mixture, which also has Parmesan in it. And then you just put it in a pan and you baked it in the oven for a certain amount of time. It might have been like 15 minutes. And then you pull it out and you top it with sauce, which is just a sauce I got from Aldi. It's like the organic marinara, and then mozzarella cheese. And then I put it back in the oven to finish cooking and to have, you know, like all the cheese melt. And this was really good. I just had it ready before I went to clogging. And then Alvin just had to heat up like a bag of broccoli to go with it. So yeah, I would definitely make that again. All right, and then the next meal I'm making, I think this is the last meal. This is a like cornbread meat pie thing. We really liked this when I made it, but the leftovers, not so much. So if you're making this, eat it all at one time, I guess. But this is ground beef. I have some rotel in here as well. And then it also called for like some eggs and some cheese, and then spices like chili spices, so like chili powder, smoked paprika, all that stuff. And then you put this in a casserole pan, and then you make this like cornbread mixture. So it is the baking blend from Trim Healthy Mama, and you mix it with like the egg whites. And then I think it had like baking powder, and it had butter and a little bit of corn and a little bit of their like sweetener, which is like stevia erythritol blend. And then you just like spooned this on top of the meat mixture, and you baked this in the oven. So I think I served this just with some veggies. And again, this was great, like fresh coming out of the oven. Neither of us liked it reheated the next day. I guess it's just like the texture of the cornbread and everything, you know, it kind of got like dry and crumbly and, you know, just not as good as fresh out of the oven. But anyway, those were the 5 meals that I made this week, and then obviously we eat leftovers the rest of the days. If you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a comment down below so I know to make more of these, so that way you can see what I'm eating. Hopefully one of these days I'm gonna lose weight and I'm not gonna always be in this postpartum like purgatory. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in another video soon. Bye.